Okay, so spring sprung, we're up on Aston Hill again, and we're going to have a look at some trail maintenance. This is the best time of year to get out there with the spade. A little bit warmer out on the trail, so you're not quite jessing up as much, and also the trail's a little bit drier. Today we're going to have a look at just a little bit of remedial work on these jumps, just getting them into shape. There's a little bit of work running into here too that we're going to have a look at as well, just to make sure the track's running sweet and make sure everything's running well. Still a little bit around water management, making sure the water that's running down the trail into the jump and off the jump can get away, but what we're really looking at here is taking out those ruts and making sure everything's running sweet for the summer. Okay, so what we're going to look at today are these ruts here. Basically what we want to do is dig down the jump, skimming off the ruts using the digging up technique. So rather than digging into the jump, we're just going to start to get in and feel our way through this material, and you can see just how easy that's lifting off. So we're just going to skim our way down, bring the trail down into this area here, and then we're going to clear this out the way and work on the drainage in from that direction and down from the jump in this direction. So with this jump here, as it's been here so long, the actual face of the jump is already well established. It's nice and firm. So what I've done is just scrape back all of the initial ruts and a tiny little bit of the topsoil. It's all about detail here. If I go too deep, I'm going to affect the shape of the jump and have to pack the soil back in. If I stay shallow, I can take away a little bit, and a little bit more, and just get that shape of that jump really tuned in. For this jump, we're looking at a jump that's quite long, and so riders aren't going to be coming into this and expecting too much of a kick. Also, it's right at the top of the trail, so you're coming out at the start, and if this was a really kicky jump and it was your first run of the day, you'd end up being a little bit nose heavy into the landing, and that wouldn't set you up for a good run. So we're trying to keep the takeoff nice and mellow, setting riders up for a really good run down the hill. So, reshape the face of the jump, starting to get the area here ready for packing, and cut back in the area here. So this pile of soil here is basically surplus to requirements. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to flatten out the ruts in this side and just use that to build the level up in there a little bit, so that that gets a little bit better too. The main aim of this is so that if any water does run down the jump into here, it's got a big area, so it sits quite shallow and evaporates quite quickly. Really pleased today to come in and see the trail already dry, which means with a little bit of work, touch wood, it will stay dry all summer. One of the great things about this time of year is that the trail isn't too muddy, so taking on a job like this isn't a big onerous task like it was earlier on in the winter. Already we've made really good progress. We've reshaped the transition here on the jump, reshaped the in, and we've used that material to camouflage the track on the return there as well. Normally I wouldn't pack down really heavy wet mud with leaves and sticks in, but in this instance over on that side it helps to bind everything together. With it just being the path that people use to get back to the top, I'm sure it won't be long until it's chopping up again, but it won't hold as much water as it did before. Meanwhile, I jump here, nice big area here for the water to pool in. Hopefully it won't build here too deep and it will drain off nice and quick, leaving a trail that should dry as quick as a road when the sun comes out, rather than a real muddy mountain bike trail. So starting to get there, looking really good. On to the next job, just shaping up the run into this jump. This is our next job. This berm here has had a pretty tough winter. A lot of the mud's gathered here, and we've got a few big crocodile's backs lying here that are just catching people out. These ruts are what I call senders. When a tyre hits these, you really feel that through the bars. So if you're not running high on the berm here, you can have a pretty rough ride down the bottom. Coming back to where we are on the trail, this is right at the top of DH3 here on Aston Hill, and we want to make sure that riders can come out at the start and have as good a run as possible into this first jump. So what we're going to do now is just give this a little bit of that summer prep, ready for the trails to really be hit hard when the weather gets even better. Okay, so what we've started to do now is peel back this leaf mulch here, and what I really just wanted to show you quickly is that the leaf mulch we're clearing isn't actually part of the base of the trail. So I've started to clear this back, and you can see under here the moisture is still sitting on the trail where it was trapped when this berm was built. It makes it really easy just to feed the spade in underneath the material and start to feel your way through rather than digging down deep. And again, this is where that digging up technique comes into its own. If you dig in deep here, you're going to be hitting the trail bed, disturbing that really hard base trail that we want to keep, and it's this stuff we want to get rid of. All the leaves and muck and dirt that's been washed down the trail over the winter, just gathering here, doing us all no favour. So we've started to get into the real big part of the rut here. You can see where the clay's been pushed down the hill and up the hill by riders coming in on various lines, and this just gives you an idea on how tough it can be building sometimes. It looks like a relatively light lump, pretty straightforward to dig out, but actually it's made up of pure Aston Hill clay. So we've really got to do a little bit of work here to get through that, and it's a case of just chiseling this off. Again, when you make your first cut, don't go too deep. Remember, you're working with a series of cuts to try and get the level right. Particularly when you're working with a berm, if you go too deep and create a shelf, it's very difficult to put that material back in. The key thing here is to keep it so we're always working with that solid mineral soil rather than disturbing that and trying to backfill again. So I'll just give you an example of how this is. So coming in on this, just chopping through the first bit, coming in underneath. You can see again how digging up there, and it gives you an idea on just how hard it can be, just shaping the clay and hitting some of the flints up here on Aston Hill. So we're pretty much there with this berm now. We've cleared out the big rut that was running through the middle, and we've just reshaped the rest of this. What we've tried to do here is just give it a very shallow gradient all the way down to the work we did earlier just in front of the jump there, draining off the water that's running down the track. Got a small incline there as you come down in. That's going to pull quite a bit of moisture into this section, and what we want to be doing is taking that away from the riding line into this ditch and down through to the gully there. So here we are, it's pretty much finished. We've reshaped the berm. The material we dug out from the bottom and we put on the back of the berm here to just help build it up over the years. We've now camouflaged that using the leaves from the side of the trail, and we've got everything ready to go. The water, as I said, will come onto the trail here, run through, down to the drainage that we put in later on, and you've got a sweet take-off transition on the jump, all ready to go and get you set into the top of DH3. There's a little bit more work to do further down, but I'm sure Pete, Aston Hill's chairman, is going to be stoked with this.